Welcome to another episode of Wisdom Personified, Conversations with Dudu Msomi. I am exploding today. You know I use excited quite a lot, so I'm trying not to do that anymore. I'm so happy to be talking to an amazing human being, really totally amazing. Her name is Nomso Kana. She's the CEO of Sun and Shield 84 Tech, one of the brains of our country. Nomso, how are you?
I'm well, Dudu. How are you?
I am so good, my friend. Thank you so much for making the time. Um, let's chat first about childhood. You know, it's the favorite place for me to start. What was your upbringing like? What are your treasured memories? I mean, how did you spend your time?
Dudu, I'm sure, with friends, you might have picked up. I was a bit of a naughty child. That naughtiness is still there and quite very playful. And as a last born at home, I could get away with lots of things. And I'm a daddy's girl. And it was such great childhood and upbringing. My parents were both teachers, and in that, I sort of had the privilege, of being recognized that I have a high aptitude in maths and science, and my parents harnessed that. But I had such a great childhood. My siblings and I are very close. I didn't do much chores at home. Hence, whenever we have dinner, you have to wash the dishes.
Yeah.
But I had such a great childhood and with a very wonderful family.
That's great. Your face is glowing as you talk about them. What do you think of wisdom? What does wisdom mean to you as opposed to intelligence?
Look, that's such an amazing question, and really not trying to be philosophical. I really think wisdom is really the core of humility. It's knowing what to do when you don't know what to do, but you apply humility in that. And wisdom, if we bring it into our local words and terminology, I would say it also sprouts out from Ubuntu, because it's a place where you just have to act wise, but just not for yourself, but for your surrounding only. Also, and as opposed to intelligence, I mean, intelligence, you just apply your intellectualism, and you're just able to crack down complex structures and find that precise and core solution. So, and there's a lot of application in intellectualism, but in wisdom, it's just who you are, your inner core, and also how you relate that with your environment.
Interesting. I'm always fascinated about the different definitions I'm getting around wisdom. That's quite enlightening. What would you say makes you memorable? What is your UVP, your unique value proposition?
I've been told quite by a lot of people that I have the combination of being an intellect and also being creative at the same time. So I think it's those two things that I carry around, and I think that that's my UVP. If anyone needs to light up a room with a joke, I'll be that person. I would volunteer. I always think that I could be a comedian at some point. Still need to find time for that. But also, if there's a contribution, whether in the core sciences and also applied sciences, I'm also there. And I believe that's my UVP, and that's how I always apply myself also in my daily life. And I believe I get along with a lot of people because of that.
Yeah, you are actually kind of not a normal scientist, I must say, having interacted with you. But, the one thing I didn't know about you was that you defeated cancer at the age of 23. I mean, can you share with me how you felt and how you reacted when you were diagnosed? And what has fueled your journey of survival?
I was doing my first year in Masters in Chemistry at the University of Wits. That was 2007. I was still 22 at that time. So I used to have this sharp pain. And I would think, oh, maybe it's because I had started swimming lessons and I'm just overdoing it. But I would have this sharp pain in my lower area, and I thought that it's getting worse. Let me see a doctor. And I think that decision of really seeing a doctor, and the doctor that I was with at that time acting very fast to say, no, let's do a couple of tests. There's something I'm picking up. So to me, it was just, okay, maybe it's just some injury. I mean, I've been playing sports in my high school years, and now I'm in varsity, and it could be things that are just, effects of those things. And after a few tests, then I discovered that I was on the first stage, and my abdomen area was filled with cancerous cells, and that had to be acted on very fast. So I remember calling my sister and telling her that, please add me to your medical aid. This is happening. I just need to do this test. I need to do this operation. And, I was just saying it in a very social, in a very light way. I need to do this test, need to do this operation, and I need to go through chemo. This will just take a year. But the second time I went for this test, then it had accelerated at a very high pace. I then had to immediately go for an operation, and this came as a shock to my family. I remember, the roles were quite reversed, because I was comforting them because I'm sort of sick, because they were quite depressed and very unhappy about the situation. But to me, I reacted later on, when some of the ladies that I went through chemo with did not make it. In my group, we're about 9, and I'm the only one who survived.
Oh,
so
my
whenever
gosh.
I thought of that, I was like, geez, this is hectic. Yeah, so it was quite, during that time, I mean, it's really just, you're sick, go to the doctor, get your medicine. But later on, you're like, shucks, this thing really kills. But I believe it's part of the ingredients of life, right?
I'm so happy you made it. And that just shows your fighting spirit. But you have a quiet fighting spirit. It's not like very obvious. But you are actually a nuclear scientist by trade. A field that women are scarce in this, but men as well. What inspired you to get into this field?
So I did not really it was not a first choice decision. The sequential events of my career are very funny. I started off as a medical biology scientist, and I remember we're going through the phase before 2010. There was an outbreak of H1N1, and that was quickly curbed in the country, and we had a good World Cup without any outbreaks or pandemics and the likes. So I was practicing then as a medical biology scientist. I then was approached by the Nuclear Energy Corporation of South Africa in the radioisotope space, because someone saw a position that needed a scientist in that space. I then, out of curiosity, I then said, oh no, let's hear about this. Well, I had studied physics in my varsity years, so I sort of had the foundations and the fundamentals of nuclear technology and nuclear medicine. So I then went in, with an open mind, curious mind, to say, let's hear, what are you guys doing here? And then I got to discover they do some of the amazing things. South Africa, we might not not be patting ourselves in the back, but we are number 3 in the world when it comes to production of radioisotopes that are used for chemotherapy in cancer treatments. And so the lab that I was working in was basically in that purification, getting the product out, ensuring that there's quality assurance. And it was such an amazing time. So I got into nuclear out of curiosity. And yes, few men, few ladies. But back in the day, South Africa used to have really a wider database of nuclear scientists. I mean, we've done amazing things as the country. So, but people moved because, it's a niche, very niche ecosystem, very niche knowledge, discipline. But they are, and also they are those that still seek to be in that space. So hence I speak about it most of the time to recruit more women and males into this space, because there are huge possibilities and opportunities in it.
Yeah, I mean, that's so inspirational, honestly. But you're also an entrepreneur. You founded a broadband infrastructure solutions company, which is called Sun and Shield 84 Tech. What does the company do?
The Sun and Shield 84 Tech, basically, we are a broadband infrastructure solutions company. We look at distributing passive and active equipment for the infrastructure part of broadband, installing cables, designing networks, connecting the last mile to the spare build, to the metro build. So meaning connecting, those fiber highways to metro areas, to cities, and designing such things, and also, bringing consultation and policy contribution towards connecting the unconnected, because as you do that, you actually get to see places and areas where people, there is a need for connectivity, but they don't know it yet. Just like we did not know that we require electricity at some point in the in the civilization of humanity. But as soon as you bring such services to people, then they get to discover that this is a utility that I could use for my own development. So that's basically what we do. So again, I sort of use my voice to get people to connect, to see the possibilities of connectivity, on how it can transform their own lives. And now they can have video calls with families in different cities, and that really requires fiber optic cables and also other fifth generation equipment that enables such. So
you're already talking 5th generation. I mean, you also a commissioner on the Presidential 4IR Commission. First of all, just tell some of us who don't know what 4IR is, but also on a personal level, how are you tackling this massive task of helping South Africa to be competitive amongst the emerging markets, to attract investment and economic growth?
Good question. So the 4IR Commission, I think that the president really conceptualized it in a timely space. 4IR, the buzzword, started being popular since 2012 and out of the World Economic Forum meetings. However, 4IR in its definition, it's really the fourth industrial revolution, an era of disruptive technologies merging together. So when I mean disruptive technologies, we have technologies that have been operating in silos. We have Internet of Things, we have artificial intelligence. We have within artificial intelligence, you have machine learning, you have deep learning, and all those things right now in this era that we are in, they're just merging together. While they're merging together, they are knitting now the physical. So it could be environment, non-living things. They're merging the biological. It's us, it's animals, anything that is living. and they're also merging the digital. So this era really brings that time where technology now is merging with the human interface, the physical interface, and also the digital. And now it's going to change the way we live, change the way we operate, and also bring new industries. So bringing the commission, I mean, our main aim was two things: make 4IR work for the country. It must solve our socio-economic challenges. There are three dominant ones. It's unemployment, it's poverty, it's inequality, and also make South Africa to be competitive economically. Our country, and this is something we should be proud of. We are in such an opportune position in the continent. We have both the oceans linked to us, and we have these undersea international cables bringing volumes of international traffic, begging to land on our shores. Others have. And with that opportunity, it brings the country into a space where we can be a hyperscale data center. This is now we host data centers, and those data centers are able to hold information, store information, process information, and create these new industries, the digital industries, and create new work opportunities, and create these amazing things that people, they need to unlearn and relearn and learn again in order for them to participate in them. So this era, and the work of the commission was really to bring that input, that narration, that South Africa participates. In the past three, we've just been, applauding other countries. We've just been, sitting in the bench and not participating. But now it's time to put our resources together and participate and just make this country to be highly economical, active.
Yeah, it's an exciting prospect, but I do wonder about our capabilities as a country and our hunger to really get into the STEM careers and to really work in that space. But the other question I would like to ask you is, what do you say to people that to alleviate their fear of artificial intelligence? And before you answer that, firstly, if somebody doesn't know what AI is, what is AI?
I always get this in my career. When I started off working in the nuclear labs, there was this fear of nuclear. So it's quite important that people understand, the fundamentals of science. Science can be complex and very hard to comprehend. But when you start to really understand fundamentals, then you understand some concepts that they are quite very easy. They are really not rocket science. So with artificial intelligence, you are using a computer, a robot to mimic human behavior. That's all it is. AI cannot function without being programmed. AI cannot function without being given components on how to function. And that functionality role, it is done by a human. So that human interface is quite important in artificial intelligence. And you asked about our knowledge, knowledge base or knowledge database, if I can put it in the country, when it comes to artificial intelligence. I believe, as soon as we have a country that embraces the STEM, then it's going to be easy for us to embrace technologies. It will not just be a few. So AI, it was one of our recommendations in the commission to say we should have an AI institute. And we actually actioned on that. We took the recommendation and actioned on it. We did a couple of awareness sessions. We did a couple of awareness sessions, and also we had events where we called these big OTT, over the top technologies that companies that are operating in the country to say, you need to assist the country in building its AI knowledge base. And that will happen in the AI Institute. And obviously AI needs to be learned in order to be applied. So with that being said, Dudu, AI is there to assist, to harness and accelerate a lot of developmental and sustainable issues in the country. And I believe it should be used in all industries. I think in the COVID pandemic, the groups that were contributing knowledge to the command council used a lot of data, big data, in which big data can really be, synthesized using AI. And I must say, a lot of our bank financial sectors are using AI, and health right now is using AI. So it's a technology that we should embrace. And obviously, yes, we have to build our own AI algorithms, AI bots and AI models. We can't just adopt, because AI needs customization in order for it to perform it to its optimal level.
That is sometimes a concern of mine, the fact that as Africans, we are not really in the thick of things. I'm also kind of interested in AI in the context, I have to think of my PhD topic, in terms of how do humans stay competitive in the context of artificial intelligence. But that's another topic for another day. But another one that I want to pick with you, not now, we need to revisit, because Bill Gates also talks about the fear we have of nuclear energy and how it could solve a lot of our problems, because we're all thinking that alternative energies, whether it's the solar, wind, or whatever, and looking at what happened in Texas, we may have to relook at some of the way our weathers, our climate is going to be impacting. So, but that's another topic for another time. What wisdom have you learned about humanity that has been illuminated with you working in the technology space? What can you tell us about ourselves?
Right. So there's one thing that I have learned about the human spirit. We're very resilient, and being resilient, we are also coupled with a bit of patience. But patience comes in at different levels in anyone's life. But being resilient, I have also picked up that it is quite important that we become curious too, because curiosity, it's either it brings you to danger or to safety. So with those things, I really thought that technology is a tool to us. Technology, it's not something that will rule us. Technology, it's a tool that we can use as humanity to propel further. I got into the sciences because I was inspired by Star Trek.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, if we can imagine and be so creative and think about, traveling into light years and teleporting and doing all those things, it means what the mind can comprehend, we can create. Yep. And that, to me, that curiosity that can bring us to safety is where I see the role of technology, to say, let's use technology as a tool for this. And this is where it brought me into really using sciences, applying sciences to solve our unique challenges. I come from a rural area, so I always believe in the rural areas, we should produce scientists, because this is where people will actually say that, I'm going to use this knowledge to actually solve this area of water sanitation or water scarcity in my area. So that's my position on that.
Because water is going to be our next area of fighting as well, the scarcity and the quality thereof. Gosh, we have so many issues as humans that we need to deal with. But what keeps you awake at night?
Currently, what keeps me awake, I've always wanted to be part of politics. whenever I would tell my family about this, they'll say, how will a scientist really get along with politicians? Because you know how they are. You know, you just need to articulate, you need to be an orator, make promises, not deliver, and just disappear. But I think there's such a huge influence in politics. And now when you come in as a technical person you have a resume long with areas where you have solved issues, areas where you have really proven yourself. You have a good track record when it comes to bringing solutions. And I think now when one has to flip that script and say, I'm taking this technical part of myself and maybe learn a bit to be more charismatic, I don't know, but and just bring it into the politics world. And I think this is where we'll have this 360 degree on how people understand politics. So it keeps me awake at night because I'm always thinking, whom can I learn from that has done this? I know a couple of ladies, the former Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, Dr. Pumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, people that have done this. And I'm thinking now in the current context, how do I get in? So that keeps me at night. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if the politicians are listening and watching, they must invite you into the fold. What legacy are you striving to leave in the world?
So currently I mentor close to 12 ladies, females and males. And my legacy really is that no matter what you have achieved, you really need to be a person that, you lift others, and you need to be that person that is known that, if I speak to this person, I might not get the solution that I want, but I'll have my mind enlightened. So that's my legacy. It's number one, to really enlighten people whenever they encounter me, and secondly, with the ventures that I'm in, to solve solutions that will speak volumes in years to come. So that's my legacy, and I really think it's quite complex, but it's happening.
Yeah, and you're young enough. You still have so much that you will still achieve. We can chat forever, but in closing, what wisdom can you share? I mean, what would you like us to remember always about you?
One thing I can share right now is that as a person, I think I have managed to be in tune with myself. I actualized before I could reach my 30s. So people used to call me that. They used to say I have an old soul, but I self-actualized. I know where I'm wanted, and I know where I need to be, where I know that, I'm wanted here, I can contribute and I'll be valued. And another part of me that I've learned is that, as a person, you need to be part of something bigger than you. And I've managed to sort of step into that direction where I contribute to African Union policies regarding gender equality and also planning for the future of Africa. We have a youthful population, and in the next 10 years, the whole world will be looking into Africa on how they can get a workforce, on how they can get new minds, young minds. And we need to safeguard that, and we need to look after that asset, which is quite youthful. So I think that's the wisdom from my side, is that I have self-actualized, and also I've managed to plug myself into things that are quite bigger than me. And that's the wisdom I live with.
Yeah. And kudos to you. I've always said, when it's possible, having looked at my own journey, sitting at board level already at 28, and people may undermine, but over time, they start understanding the value you can add. So I hope you're going to inspire a number of young people and also our peers, my peers anyway, who can still see that they can still achieve more and do more. But most of all, part of why I wanted to talk to you is I need science to be part of just how we breathe in this country, in Africa. We don't see enough African people in this field, and especially women. And so I hope you understand why we're having this conversation. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Wisdom Personified, Conversations with Dudu Msomi. Until next time.